Hello everyone, it's David again, and I am recording now, Season 2, Episode 13, Hunter Prey. I do want to let you guys know, if you haven't seen yet, there is an update that I posted a couple days ago about it. Looks like everything's going along with the script. JMS basically has a script for the pilot episode, and it's going back and forth between him and his contact at Warner Brothers. And so he's gonna, that's basically how these things kind of run. And then once they're happy with their final script, then they will begin shooting sometime next year. Okay? So, back to the old Babylon 5, I do need to caution you, you're going to hear lots of activity in the background. I've got a 4-month-old kitten, and he is absolutely terrorizing the whole house right now. Actually got a sympathy at the vet's office today when I went to drop off my other cat because she's got dental problems. I don't know if you guys can see this, but my hand looks like someone attacked it with a cheese grater. He got it, and a nice big old welt right there. He got a hold of it in the middle of the night and just chewed and scratched till his heart's content. Now, mind you, I'm trying to sleep while this is all going on, but, good luck with that. Anyway, we're starting off on Babylon 5. Garibaldi goes up to CNC, and he's querying, where's Sheridan and Ivanova? And he goes, they're in Bay 13. And he goes, nobody goes to Bay 13. And it's like, yeah, that's what we tried to tell Captain Sheridan, but he insisted on going. Now, if any of you don't know, the reason that they don't go to Bay 13 is that is where Ambassador Kosh's ship is. And for those who may not be aware, in Western culture, 13 is considered an unlucky number. And Friday the 13th is considered especially unlucky, which is kind of bad for me because my mom was born on Friday the 13th. So, might explain a lot of things. Anyway, we zip on over, and Sheridan and Ivanova are talking about Kosh's ship. Ivanova says they've run as many scans as they thought they could get away with and could barely puncture the skin of this thing. It uses some sort of organic technology. She said he's taken it out to Vorlon homeworld, and if you look closely, the skin patterns change. Some people have said that they can actually read words in the skin patterns. I can't myself. Every once in a while I'll see like a smiley face or something that pops up there, but whether that's intentional, I don't know. Sheridan says they're at least 1,000 years ahead of them in technology. And as he's walking towards the ship, something triggers and comes out, and this beam of light goes in and, right in the chest, kind of like, when you have a gun and you have the red dot. It's like he's now been targeted by this thing for whatever reason. And Ivanov is like, back up slowly, dude. Back. And he finally kind of gets the hint that don't want to get too close to the ambassador's ship. Whether it's just a scanner or whether it's also some sort of defense mechanism, we don't know. She said maintenance crew said that the ship talked to them in their sleep, and so they've refused to go back. So, just lots of cobwebs building up or whatever, I guess. And she said Kosh has been on Babylon 5 for 2 years, which I think, isn't Babylon 5 3 years old at this point? So anyways, missing a time frame in there, I think. But Sheridan is now wanting to make his personal mission to learn about Kosh. And after they leave, Kosh comes out and talks to his ship. And the ship patterns change to what is presumably some sort of Vorlon script. And Kosh just nods his head. And so is the ship an extension of Kosh? Or is the ship something completely different? Because if you notice, remember when Kosh himself was killed, his ship didn't die. But his ship did, of course, grieve in the only way that it could. It flew itself into the sun. Now, I don't know about you, but I prefer maybe to sit Shiva for a while and then just go on about my business. But evidently, the ships must be attached to them somehow. You know, whether it's like a kissing cousin or whether it's like a mate, maybe. Or if it's an actual extension of Kosh. I don't know if we've ever really satisfactorily explained that. So if you guys have any ideas, put it down below. Michael Garibaldi comes in and says Earth Alliance has posted an alert for a guy named Dr. Jacobs. Evidently, he was the president's personal physician. And so we cue on into the entrance. Some of the actors, Barry Casey as Agent Derek Cranston. I think he plays comes in for a second round, if I remember right. He was born June 8, 1939. Sadly, he passed away September 19th, 27, from Waco, West Virginia. He was in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. I remember him mostly from Revenge of the Nerds. He was the head of that... was it Alpha Lambda Alpha or something that the nerds were trying to get into? It's an all-black fraternity, fraternity. We didn't have those at my school. Our school didn't allow it when I went to nursing school. So they just met off campus if you were the member of any sort of national fraternity. Really downplayed at our fraternity because of the reputation of hazing is what I'm getting at. So we were lightly hazed when we first day in there, but it was things like, we had to get down on our hands and knees and eat ice cream off of a plate set on the ground. And you either had chocolate or not chocolate, depending on, minor things like that. Just to say that we had to be hazed. Anyway, Barry Casey was in the National Football League. Surprise! I did not know this one, but it's American-style football. And he was in the San Francisco 49ers from 61 to 66, and the Los Angeles Rams from 67 to 68. And someone came up once, and he was painting on this painting, because he's also a painter and a poet, and he says he only played football for money. He said if money wasn't an object for him, he would have nothing to do with football. He just wanted to be a painter. That was quite fascinating. National Football League. Anyway, Wanda de Jesus, she plays Sarah, kind of like that go-between between the General and Captain Sheridan. She's born on 26 August of 58. She's born in Manhattan. She played Detective Adele Sevilla at CSI Miami. Is that pronounced correctly? Anyone who speaks Spanish, can you correct me on that if I'm wrong? One thing I'm horrible at is rolling my R's. I had a Spanish teacher. I would try and teach her some of my German, and she'd try and teach me Spanish, and you should have seen the lengths she tried to get at me, because I cannot roll my R's, but I believe it's Sevilla. Tony Steedman as Dr. Everett Jacobs, born in 1927, passed away in 2001. He's from the UK. He played Socrates in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. So he's playing along with Mr. Casey there. Richard Mole, you'll remember him as Bull from Night Court. You Americans will remember him. He plays Max, January of 1943 in Pasadena. He also played in Highlander. I don't remember him in Highlander. And also Buck Rogers. He's 6'7" 3/4", which is 2.03 meters. Really tall, affable guy. He was picked as Bull in Night Court not just because of his comic ability, but also because he could just tower over the other cast, who were also quite tall. So I guess Bull had to be much taller than everybody for whatever reason. Anyways, we're back to Babylon 5. Michael Garibaldi goes to Dr. Franklin about Dr. Jacobs, and Jacobs, or Dr. Franklin, I should say, took some classes from Dr. Jacobs. And when he had trouble with xenobiology, no one else would help me, and Dr. Jacobs took the time and made me pass for some odd reason. Even though he only got a 3.7 in first aid instead of a 4.0, which now I guess the maximum is 4.2 or 4.3. They keep changing it higher and higher for the nerdy people. Dr. Jacobs tries to get an identity card from one of the down below people, and he's overheard by Max, and eventually gets captured by Max, the bad guy. As we go on, Sheridan tries to go, and he notices Kosh going around the corner, and so he zips around the corner, works up the nerve, and he's talking to Kosh. And Kosh makes one of his Kosh-isms that's highly meant. He says, I listened to the song talking about when he was on that Stribe ship, and he was kind of out for a while. And he said, I listened to the song, your thoughts became a song. He says, has this ever happened before? And Kosh says, once. Now, does anyone have any idea when that once was supposed to be? If that was in regards to episode Sinclair had with him, maybe? Because I don't know if anyone's ever come up with that once before. Anyway, zip on over, and Sheridan is noticing a pre-placed signal, a little tie somewhere up there. And so he kind of placates Michael Garibaldi and goes and meets with this Susan, or Sarah, sorry, not Susan, Sarah. She said Dr. Jacobs knew President Clark was not ill before the assassination of Santiago, and you've got to get to him before the president's agents do, or bad things are going to happen to him. And a lot of that evidence that Santiago was assassinated, that key piece of evidence is going to go away. So you got to get to Dr. Jacobs first. Anyway, Michael Garibaldi sends a cryptic message to Dr. Franklin, heavily memmed. If you go back, and he sends this weird message like happy birthday, even though it's not Dr. Franklin's birthday. He says, go back, play that message frame by frame. One of the frames has Michael Garibaldi and those, little comic balloons, like when you're reading a comic book and the dialogue balloon pops up. It's got two of them, and when people do the memes, they'll have different things written up there. So that's why I'm mentioning it is heavily memmed. You'll see that quite frequently. Let's see here. Dr. Jacobs, we learned, is using stims to stay awake, and you get the feeling from JMS that he's trying to do. This is a man who's used to culture and academia, basically, and he's a man who is very much out of his element. He's down below in a space station far away from any sort of power base that he might have, and so this poor guy is terrified. I've met plenty of doctors who would be quite at home in this kind of a situation. A lot of them work in areas that are, ne'er-do-well. They work in slums and places like that on their off time. They'll volunteer at places like that. But Dr. Jacobs, you get the sense, is very much used to academia and presidential circles, not down below circles. Max captures Dr. Jacobs and finds the data crystal with all of his notes and scans or whatever he has of the president, and offers to sell it to Agent Cranston for 10,000. I'd have wanted a hell of a lot more than that. I'd have said 50 grand at least. I got expensive taste, man. Anyway, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, CNC contacts Captain Sheridan, says, Ambassador wants to see you. And he says, well, I'm busy, dude. Can it wait? And he goes, I don't know. It's Ambassador Kosh. Well, you can see Ivanova's head do the double spin because she's like, in 2 years, Kosh has never asked to see anybody. So, of course, Sheridan is like, well, hell, I'm going to take this, my one chance. I'm going to bite on that hook, man. Going to go see him. We go into down below, and Garibaldi and Franklin are trying to find poor Dr. Jacobs without Garibaldi's own staff finding out about it. So they question one of these guys who has a watch of Dr. Jacobs, and he goes, I don't want to give my sources up because that would be bad for business. And Garibaldi quips to him, heavily memmed, so I'm mentioning it. Yeah, and so is having your eyeballs spooned out and served on toast. So you get the feeling that Mr. Garibaldi isn't going to take no for an answer. We zip on in, and Sheridan goes in to talk to Kosh. And he's basically saying, well, everybody wants to know who you are, and he's like, they are not ready, they would not understand. Now, we all know now that they wouldn't understand. Basically, Kosh and the Vorlons have been slowly adjusting us to believe that they are angels from above. You see this especially when Kosh has to leave his encounter suit to go rescue Sheridan, as Sheridan's falling from the sky during an assassination attempt on him. Kosh comes out and he's got these angel wings, and Sheridan says, Kosh? And, yeah, it's me, you got me. And everybody else sees an angel of some kind from their own belief system, basically. Except one exception. Put it down below if you remember who that one exception is. I know who it is. I'll give you a hint. He has big hair. Doesn't see nothing. So, anyway, Kosh, and talking to Sheridan, no, you do not even understand yourself. Kind of, can you help me to understand you? And he's like, no, you don't even understand yourself. A lot of Buddhist mysticism and Hinduism mixed up into that. You're supposed to challenge your teacher at least 3 times, and then your teacher will give you the real answer. After much haggling, that's kind of, you got to poke them until they cough up the real juicy information on how to find nirvana. He says, no, you do not understand yourself, go. And he's basically turning around and, screaming at him like, look, pal, you asked me, you were never hardly at the hearings, and as soon as I come on station, you're at every single one. Does this say, has Sheridan been manipulated all his life by the Vorlons, do you think? Because they show up at the damnedest places. And I'm wondering, too, in the new series, if that's going to be the case. Because, anyway, I'm not going to say too much more. Don't want to reveal it, because as one person has kind of pointed out, I might be stepping over that line, that JMS has set up on his Patreon account. Might get myself blocked. Don't want to do that. So, what do you guys think? And Sheridan, in a moment of frustration, says, what do you want? And Kosh, in a very rare move, does a head spin, never asks that question, because we all know that's the question of the shadows, the bad guy. Kosh says, no, I will teach you about you. And about me? What I already know about me. What am I supposed to do? Why are you going to teach me about me? And he says, until you are ready to fight legends. Extremely important is why I'm, bringing this one up. He's got to battle the legends. Now, as the legends, the shadows, because we all, I think, have pretty much figured that one out. He's going to have to battle the shadows, but is it just the shadows, or are there other legends, like the Hand? I've heard that the Hand are a race of beings that gave the Vorlons all kinds of problems. They were beating back the Vorlons and the other races until the Vorlons asked the only other race they could help, and that was the Shadows. And this was, I think, a great shadow war. So many people have come up with different theories about who the Hand really are. If you have an idea, go ahead and put it down. I've heard that story that Sheridan had Babylon 5 continued beyond the 5th season, that's what was going to happen. Sheridan was going to go to the Rim because he woke up the Hand, whoever they were, call all the first ones, the Vorlons and the Shadows, back and help defeat the Hand and permanently out of this dimension forever, is where I'm going with that. We go on. Garibaldi and Franklin do find Dr. Jacobs. However, Michael Garibaldi is stabbed, which, while Dr. Franklin's sewing him up, makes it out, and what did he get in first aid? And he said 4.0, and Dr. Jacobs said 3.7, which, hey, it's close enough. An A is close enough. Any doctor who's good enough to fix this up is good enough for me. Find the data crystal with Dr. Jacobs' notes is in the possession of Max, big tall Max, who's 6'7" 3/4, not 6'8", 6'7" 3/4. Can't just round that sucker up, I guess. Garibaldi ends up confronting Max and starts shooting his PPG, kind of this little arc around Max's head, getting the idea of you get me what I want. And Garibaldi also makes it pretty plain that he's not in a good mood. And so they get the data crystal back. But the problem is they got to get Dr. Jacobs off the station because he's got an implanted device that Dr. Cranston's figured out they can rewire the internal sensors to find this device. So they put Dr. Jacobs in a medically induced coma and put him on the one place that they would never think to look, and that is Kosh's ship. So Kosh's ship ends up departing the station. They scan and find there are no human life forms on board. So in other words, it's either Kosh himself or the ship itself. We're all led to believe that it's Kosh's ship, that it is, in fact, organic technology. Pretty much highly circumstantial, but still very, very good evidence that it is organic ship. Is it possible to have organic ships? I am extremely doubtful on that one. You've got, the requirement for oxygen, as far as we know, is pretty much universal at some point. You're going to have the extreme temperatures, and then you're going to have the extreme distances needed to cover, and the radiation. I mean, we can't even make it to Mars because the radiation will kill you by the time you get there, in the 18 months it takes for us to get to Mars. We got to figure out some way to build a ship that blocks out the radiation. The problem is that damn thing is so heavy it would never clear our orbit. So, unless you've got other ideas, go ahead and put that down below. I'm of the opinion of negatory on the organic ships. But this is science fiction, not science fact. So, Dr. Jacobs taken out of the ship, revived as soon as Cranston leaves, of course. And it is a living ship, conscious and aware, they say. And Dr. Jacobs says, in fact, while he was on board the ship in a medically induced coma, the ship sang to him. And everybody looked at the ship, and the ship was just changing its patterns. So, anyways, lots of good stuff to talk about. Do you think there is such a thing as organic technology? I'm on the doubtful on that. Is Kosh's ship an extension of him, or is it a completely separate being? So, anyways, comment down below. Please like, subscribe. We are so close to that 100 mark. It's just making me giddy with excitement. Please share this with your friends and tell them to subscribe. we need to eventually get it to 1,000 so I can monetize this and maybe get some better equipment and some better, effects and some of the fancier stuff that you'll see on like PewDiePie's channel. But anyways, it's kind of also though nice to be sub 1,000 because they don't really look at you, and so you can pretty much say whatever the heck you want on these things. So we're really close to that 100 mark. Let's do first things first. Let's not worry about Mr. PewDiePie, because he's probably somewhere where I will never be able to reach in realistic, it's a nice sci-fi series, in my opinion, one of the best. The problem is not as many people agreed with me, otherwise it would probably still have continued to this day. But we get Babylon 5 5.1 or whatever you want to call it next year, so just as good enough for me. Anyways, like, comment, subscribe, and share. Hope you all have a good rest of the day. I'm recording this the day before Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving, that is. So, if you guys are celebrating tomorrow, please have a good Thanksgiving. Hope you all have a good rest of your day. And I've said that twice now, so I better shut up. I'm repeating myself.